Shalom, everybody, and thank you for taking this time to study with me. And today we'll be looking at Enoch chapter 8, and we're going to continue with our study of the Nephilim being the hybrid race that occurred, or that was formed when rebellious angels descended and took the daughters of men and had children with them. So there was a hybrid race, or a mix of the celestial race and the human race. Okay, or the angelic race and the human race. So let's begin in verse 1. And there's only four verses, so it's not a lot to read. Verse 1 says, "And Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them, and bracelets and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones, and coloring tinctures." So I just want to stop right here. We notice that Azazel is teaching men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, pretty much weapons, and how to make war. So pretty much Azazel wants men to essentially kill themselves, right? We know that's what the devil comes to do, is to steal, kill, and destroy. So the angels are teaching men how to teaching teaching people how to kill ourselves, right? Through making weapons. So this is not something that man invented. This is information that was passed on, that was revealed to men by the angels, pretty much, in order that we kill ourselves or annihilate ourselves, right? And also, I just have to give my opinion. It talks about jewelry and wearing makeup, and it's my opinion that it's not a sin to wear jewelry. It's my opinion that it shouldn't be excessive jewelry, but this is my opinion. And I also don't think it's a sin for a woman to use makeup. That's a personal decision. I personally think that all women, that God has given all women a natural beauty, and they really don't need makeup. But if women think they can enhance their looks with makeup, by all means. I think it's maybe vanity, but it's definitely not a sin in my eyes, in my opinion. Verse 2, "And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray and became corrupt in all their ways. Simjasa taught enchantments and root cuttings, and Amros the resolving of enchantments. Baruchiel taught astrology, Kokabel the constellations, and Ezekiel the knowledge of the clouds, Arakel the signs of the earth, Shamziel the signs of the sun, and Sarael the course of the moon. And as men perished, they cried, and their cry went up to heaven." So we can tell that the angels pretty much taught men how to do enchantments, witchcraft and things like that, and astrology. Is the Kokabel taught the constellations, and I just want to take let's look at the Bible says about astrology, and I'm gonna take look at this first verse in Isaiah chapter 8, verse 19, and it says, "And when they say unto you, seek unto learn that have familiar spirits, and unto wizards that peep and that mutter, should not a people seek unto their God, for the living to the dead?" So why should we consult the you know um familiar spirits, or the spirit of the ancestors, people who are dead? If we're talking about people we want to know, we're living, right? We have God to consult, right? And also in Isaiah chapter 47, verses 12 through 15, it says, "Stand now with thine enchantments, and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth, if so be thou shalt be able to profit, if so be thou mayest prevail. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. Behold, they shall all be like stubble. The fire shall burn them. They shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame. There shall not be a coal to warm at, no nor fire to sit before it. Thus shall they say be unto be unto thee with whom thou hast labored, even thy merchants from thy youth. They shall wander every one to his quarter, none shall save thee. So the Bible pretty clearly condemns, things like astrology and horoscopes and everything. So if you're still caught up in horoscopes, just give it to God, ask God to give you strength to ignore those things and to lead others who are also caught up in those things away from those things. And also, it's kind of foolish to think that, like, if the planets will align, or if the stars control our destiny or our behavior. It's pure foolishness. I was caught up in that foolishness, and I just pray God to deliver me from that. So that was chapter 8. So there was a couple of verses in chapter 7 that we were going to cover that I think really go along with chapter 8. And in Enoch chapter 7 it says, and all the others together with them took unto them wives, and each chose for himself one, and they began to go in unto them and to defile themselves with them. And they taught them charms and enchantments and the cutting of roots, and made themselves acquainted with plants. And then chapter 7 verse 5 says, and they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink blood. Now, what it means, it says, and they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish. I don't know exactly what that means, but I have my theories. So here are some Egyptian hieroglyphs. So we have an Egyptian pharaoh in some kind of in his white regalia sitting on his throne, and we see a guy appears like it's like a guy standing before him, maybe with like the mask of a bird, or maybe he's half bird. Whether it's a mask or whether, I think the Egyptian hieroglyphs are trying to teach us something, that there was some kind of like mixture between animals and people, like a genetic mixture. If we see on like man number 3 that's standing before the throne, he has like the head of a bird, or it looks like he has like a beak. We see by the scales, we see a figure that looks like he has like the mane of a lion, maybe he's part dog, part alligator. So we see that there's also lots of like mixture of what I believe is mixture of DNA. That's what it's trying to convey to us. If we see also by the scales, we see like a person that's kneeling, but he has a head of a dog. Okay, I believe it's very possible that in the whole world sees what God does, right? God revealed to the Hebrew nation the truth on these things, but I think all the other pagan nations, they also saw what happened, and they're using their own vocabulary to describe what happened. Here's some Greek mythology, or some Greek hieroglyphs. We see what we call a centaur, the half horse, half human, or half humanoid like thing. So in my mind, it could have been possible that, in as much as the angels defiled themselves sexually with women, they could have also done the same thing with animals. That's just it's a theory that I have. Also, we see to revisit the Sumerian Anunnaki. The Anunnaki, he's the guy seated down, and if he were to stand up, he'd be much taller than the other two men who were standing before him. And it's very interesting that the Sumerians had knowledge, or they're being taught about the solar system. There's a sun in the middle. If you look at the red circle, we see the sun in the middle, and we see the planets going around the sun. That's a pretty revolutionary thought for that time period, especially before they had telescopes and before they were able to circumnavigate the globe. How would they know that the planets are going around the sun, and not, that it doesn't depict a flat Earth, it doesn't depict the sun going around the Earth, but it pretty much conveys a heliocentric theory. Some knowledge that that modern science didn't come to until a few hundred years ago. Now here's Zeus. Okay, this is more Greek mythology, and we see Zeus, and we see a couple women, and it's very, according to Greek mythology, Zeus came down many times, visited Earth many times, and took many wives and had many, in the Greek mind, they were half human, half god, like children called Titans. But I think the Hebrew Bible, what we call the Nephilim, the Greeks called Titans. Okay, so obviously, when the rebellious angels were descending to the Greeks, they were gods because they didn't obviously didn't know, they didn't have a understanding of the truth. So what to them, what to the pagans or to the more other primitive cultures were gods, we know that they were just rebellious fallen angels, and there's only actually one God. And these fallen angels, took human wives, took human women, and they they formed the hybrid race. And also even the Nordic cultures, they have one of the most prominent ones is the god Thor. Okay, he's a Nordic god. He's perhaps he was a fallen angel, perhaps he's a Nephilim. We don't really know, but what we call mythology. I think is obviously a misunderstanding of what these pagan or primitive cultures, like I said, when they saw angels coming down and doing what they were doing, they were powerful beings. They mistook them for gods because they were mostly polytheistic cultures, and then they weren't aware that there was only one God. And also, even in our English language, Thursday is named in honor of the god Thor. It's Thor's Day, right? And also, it's very interesting that a part of Adolf Hitler's philosophy was that the Aryan races, or the white Germanic North European races, were descendants of these Nordic gods. That was pretty much that was a big part of Hitler's racial philosophy, right? And so he thought that the Aryans were the superior race because he believed that were they were descendants of gods. Hitler can call them gods, but we know that they're fallen angels. But we know that in reality, there's only one human race. That human race has, the devil and his fallen angels tried to corrupt that human race, and they did corrupt parts of it. That's even why, there are many calls in the Bible to just annihilate whole peoples. Where there's giants, usually God would have those people. God commanded the children of Israel just to annihilate them. But in all reality, there's only one human race, because in Acts chapter 17, verse 26, and says, "And hath made," speaking of God, "and hath made of one blood all nations of men for to dwell on all the face of the earth, and hath determined the time before appointed, and the bounds of their habitation." So God made all races from one blood, from Adam, right? There's only one human race. Okay, it comes in many colors, manifests in different nationalities and different languages, but we're all one human race, and we have the same human genome. That's pretty much 99.999% the same. Matthew chapter 4, verse 37, it says, "But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be." So pretty much this whole mixing of different, like I said, when it says the angels defile themselves with birds, reptiles, beasts of the earth, and also fish, and also with human women, just the whole mixing of genes, I believe, is one of the things that caused the flood in the days of Noah. So these sheep rather, these are, one of them is a clone, I believe. One or both of, well, I know one is, I believe one is actually the result of a clone, right? Some Chinese scientists about 20 years ago cloned a sheep. This cute little fella, he's called a geep. He's a goat and a sheep mixed together. and this is called this other cat. This cat right here is called a Tygon. It's a mixture of I believe a male lion and a female tiger. All right, and then also we know that there are chips that potentially in the future could cause some kind of transhumanism or cause some kind of some kind of altering of the human DNA and therefore altering perhaps the very image of God, right? So obviously, the mixing or the playing with God's creation is something that's very much something that very much is forbidden and should be therefore avoided. And in the book of Jasher, chapter 4, in verse 18, it talks about the same thing about how God's fury, even before the flood, was was provoked by all this mixing of different animals and doing things that are against God's original plan. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. And be blessed. Thank you.